Mandang gombo jinzen jambe yang chan sa lo kange lo zhen zhen nian zhen da nian da ra nam da ra sa ra we qi nian dun guen qi xian sen che nian ge tong ka le bam zin Kanda sebe zun ra ra ma de men tong a lai je serve do tong gong lai bun je da ran ze yen lai zhong ju yang den song do da rai che re do e nyun mo nyen lo le je chang do ze jin Mare munsale tung ala nyung ko e chi nye chung ze ral di nam de ne da jin sa chu tar sun yun den lun zo e gyal se tu he ko chu cha e chu dan chu nye gen de da le munsale jambe yang la tu Om Arabazana Deo Marabazana 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 Omarabazana de Zeden Jeden Chenrabo Sre Jedan Le Timo Mimba Rasalane Kadan Tenje Shun Lun Tompa Yin Lo Zhe Pope Nanwa Zalando Solo Kangse Tavaran de Pam Chung Se Chiwarai de Na Gombo jamyang kinye ne kekme panyang tong barai sho. Ninje chimbe tsude nime shen sune melam chimbo ngabja ta pegar taranga tsendu chermen to tenpa tukje chen la changsa kunjen sonong pe me tongpo le jalwe namdru rangchung rangje to nunzo beze yonde zombarwa pe ma jung ne dang le beze rjong lujo tome arya dewa ta Yin Chonglang Chunje Tabe Shawe Yun De Yue Dan Shang Je Yue Lang So Jian Zhou Chong Nian Nam La So Lo Wa De Me Ma Yu Seng Ge Gang Ge Ri Be Me Si De Long Ne Cang Zeng Kun Se Jiang Jiang Be Pa Yu Tu Zhe Kun Nian Pa Rong Sum Che Je Sang Bo Jia Yu Gang Ye Tu Ga Ren Jin Ning Be Ngo Lo Yun Den Kun Jung Ga Yue Jie Zang Le Do Ning Be Dun Do Be Be Na Ju Pa Long Chen Ram Jam Shab La So Lo Wa De Ri Dong Jam Bo Le Shen Ne Che La Le Gong Be Long Ne Po Be Der Je Ru Long Do Chu Zhen Jiang Cu Nga Wang Ju Ro Mi Pam Jam Yang Nam Jia La So Lo Wa De Ho Min Chu Ji In Jie Po Zhang Ni Du Sum Sang Jie Kun Jie Ngo Ni Rang Sim Chu Gu Rong Sum Tun Zhe Pa Za Yue Lam Me Shab La So Lo Wa De Te Yang Zhu Wa Nam Gi Ta Dan Yan Be Sim Jian Tam Jie Dong Ga Le Jun Jie Ni Dang Zhal De Tom Jia Lan Na Me Pa Yang Da Pa Zo Bi Sang Jie Ji Ko Bang Rin Bo Che La Ko Ba Ra Ji Wo Ti Chi Du Tam Bi Che De Nian Sen Jian Chul Shin Du Nyam Su Lang Wa Ra Ji Wo Nyam Bi Sam Ba Chang Ju Cho Du Thuk Je Pa Rin Bo Che Salta Be Gu Ne Sam Ba Ra Sho Kang Sam Ba Ra Cha Wi Chu Ge Rin Ba Ni Ke Bi Chu La Ju Bi Go She Cha Wi Den Je De Nian De La Yang Ke Bi Ne Chu Chu Ji Tom Shi Su Su Yang Da Pa Ri Pa Shi Go Ne Sung Gi Yo Ba Le Ne kebi ne chu kamla re kebi ne chu de nang ne tangbo phungbo la kheba de ko la shu sin dire kham ki kablas kham la khebar chawe kabla le te
At the beginning of class, please give rise to bodhicitta thinking, may all sentient beings who are as numerous as the sky is vast attain a state that is free of suffering and the causes for suffering. And may I be able to establish all these sentient beings at the level of perfect and complete Buddhahood, the ultimate result. And in order to do so, may I now study and put the teachings correctly into practice. With that kind of motivation, please listen to the teachings. The text that we're studying is the treatise entitled The Gate for Entering the Way of a Pandita, or The Gateway to Knowledge by Mipham Rinpoche. And the entire text is outlined by three main topics. which are the 10 topics of expertise, the 4 seals of Dharma, and the fourfold correct discrimination. We're currently discussing the first one of those, the 10 fields of expertise. And after having completed the first one of the 10 topics, the aggregates, today we will discuss then the elements.
Dilane kasang tiwa kashe chwebe nane dane tangbode kunshi shagnas ane semjen re tumunge nangwa de kandesne shatogu res direw kechechido dinde tumunge nangwa de semjen re layang ane mixe ke rang susu ke nangwa nangye ke ane paksha re kunshi tengda sha yobatang shenyang ane semjen chitun gi nangwa sengji yang semjen chitun gi nangwa senginde ta le halam tene tanda penna lo zambuling la kebi mi denzo gi lo zambuling la ke gi ane le de rang susu ge kunshi tengla tene paksha sha ne ane tanda rang susu la lo zambuling gi nangwa de nangye ro ta hodin desne sha tu des.
The first question that we received over the weekend was with regard to common experience, common appearances for different sentient beings. We said that all the appearances, all the experiences of the world, the environment, sentient beings, and so on, they all depend on the individual habitual tendencies in the all-ground consciousness of a sentient being. And so each appearance is individual to individual sentient beings based on the individual karmic actions and the habitual tendencies in the all-ground consciousness that they have formed. Now, how can we then explain the more general experiences that we share with other sentient beings, with other beings of the same kind? This is explained by the fact that it is still individual karma, individual habitual tendencies, but they are so much alike that they appear in a common way, that they appear to be similar for beings. For example, the beings in this world, in our world, we have a similar experience of this world because the karma that we have accumulated individually is so very much alike. So it still arises as an appearance based on individual habitual tendencies, but very similar habitual tendencies.
군시 대 미다바 있는 사변당 박사 간데스는 샤토 그래서 군시 대기 땡라 박사 샥산에 니께지기 양 깨지 니발라 차 되는 깨지 숨바 시와선데 박사 샥교데 코롱라 깨지 지네 코 박사 냐냐로 지네 코 깨지 줄대기요래 대 남신은 유진 송나 되니 군시기 박사들야 세네 남인 레병교요래 용고교요래스.
And then there was a question with regard to the all-ground consciousness in regard to how habitual tendencies can be stored in the all-ground consciousness and how they can arise and cease if the all-ground consciousness itself is also impermanent. And that is explained by momentary arising and ceasing of each moment of consciousness, of each moment of the all-ground consciousness, and also the habitual tendencies that make up the all-ground consciousness or are stored there. And so through the momentary change of arising and ceasing, each moment causing then the next moment to arise, the habitual tendencies can be said to be stored there, as well as that also facilitates the arising of the habitual tendencies as appearances, so the full ripening of these habitual tendencies.
ne nyomong ba ye de kunshi la migna kandes ne migres so da de kunshi de ane je kunji baksha shangsa ge ne madrib lungma ten je da ko sal shiri par rangshin ji da thoma me ban yete ra ta di la tene ten nyomong ba ye de ge ta di la yul du chene sal shiri kwa de la yul du chene ngao san 살시리과 지 여바지 하고는 살시리과 될라테네 나오스네 되네데스 다도 따와 나오는 맹아잘 당스네 아니 다도 차와 당스 되네 다음에 봐 하마고네 되네 살 군시데다 살시리과 잠시 군지 박샤 샤사기 출돌라고 살시리과 잠시 되네 여래다 디 살시리과 잠 될라 통네 딜라 때네 되네 tene nga mebala nga wasene zin somares.
And then the next question was with regard to the afflictive mind, or what the text calls the disturbed mental cognition, and how the disturbed mental cognition relates to the all-ground consciousness, how it focuses on the all-ground consciousness. So the all-ground consciousness is where all the habitual tendencies, all habitual tendencies, all seeds for experiences are stored. And the all-ground consciousness itself is unobscured and neutral, and just possesses the quality of cognition, of consciousness, which is to be clear and aware. And since it is this stream of habitual tendencies with the quality of being clear and aware, then this has been going on since beginningless time. It's a stream of consciousness that has been going on since beginningless time. And that's what then the afflicted mind or the disturbed mental cognition looks at or focuses on, and thinks that this is the self, that that I exist, that there is a self that exists because of, or focusing on that all-ground consciousness. So by focusing, by having as its object the all-ground consciousness, the afflictive mind is this thought, I am, I exist, and like the self exists. And based on that, then it comes to attachment to the self and so on. But it's this fundamental focus on grasping to a self based on seeing this clear and aware all-ground consciousness.
네, 군시대 저와카가데 군시 마티빔바데 간데스네 하 고알랭고 군시 남시대 데닝고 살라 마티 이 룽마테네 인선송나 콘요몽바 강게양 랑신지 마임바 디인데가라 마티바스 베나 타젠다우 ana pena tanda nyom ba yito na ngar zimba dira di tip to gira pena thesum mari takzin raw tinde gi rangshin ji na tip gira ta di kunshi de ko sal shin ri ba sam she gi ma to bi nyom ba kang kya kya ji moy gi wang du lam ma de ndu ko mati bas khoro da dip je to kan me sa ko kunshi sal shi ri ba sam she tinde gi chul do sa re
And another question was then with regard to the all-ground consciousness, again, how we have to understand that it is unobscured or unobscuring. And the way to understand that is that the all-ground consciousness in its essence is clear, unobscured, and neutral. We had these different characteristics of the all-ground consciousness that we listed. And this unobscured actually refers to the fact that in its essence, the all-ground consciousness is not afflicted, is not afflictive. It's not an aspect of ignorance, of aversion or attachment. So we saw that the afflicted mind, the disturbed mental cognition, that is a grasping to a self. That's the fundamental grasping to a self, which is ignorance, because there's no self. But the all-ground consciousness, in being just the clear and aware cognition, does not is not obscured with regard to the afflictive emotions itself. It's so free from afflictions. It is unobscured. It's unobscured.
Tene kunshi de kega ke ju kan sin tene ke chada kunshi de tangbo ta je marik ba samle tene kunshi chungarwa tene marik ba samle tene ti chela tene ngare de maung pan tene se sachu junta tipe tempo yosne khasang ne kechal lepso tene jukshe truk ta wen mitem ba yin sta den ti kunshi de tempo yos phagi de chik patula yosne tene sung sung de sachu wi junta patula te de kap de la tene sachu junta ne tene dorje ta biting yin ji tene de kunshi de melong yi chela ne jurgi resne pecha de jin tene sumi do te ke de go tangbo marik pa chine ti ngage de maung ba dorje ta ting zenji sachu junthani mala tende kega kyu.
So the all-ground consciousness, then, how can we, like, what caused or causes its arising, and what makes it cease? So what's the arising and the cessation of this all-ground consciousness? The first, the initial cause for the all-ground consciousness to arise, or is actually ignorance, and the then it is like since beginningless time, since it has been present as a very stable cognition, as a very stable consciousness, that does not cease in any of the other circumstances compared to the engaging consciousnesses, which are temporarily suspended at different times. Only the all-ground consciousness, we said, is the stable cognition which stays on throughout all different circumstances until it is being transformed into mirror-like wisdom, mirror-like primordial wisdom on the 10th bhumi by the power of the Vajra-like samadhi. So the Vajra-like samadhi is then that which terminates the all-ground consciousness, or at least transforms it into mirror-like wisdom on the from on the 10th bhumi, from the 10th bhumi onwards. So we can say that ignorance is the cause for the all-ground consciousness, while then the Vajra-like samadhi on the 10th bhumi is what makes it cease.
Ne temen duje ge nang la sok sing je le sok ong bo sen ta de nga so nam shishig ba do la ne bi cha de ti cha de la ni sok che de la sok sen de la vares de kaw yang de ta le ge wang ge ka chö ne ge wa ta de do ne ge re ene kaw yang le ge thap den zu gi pha chu jurwa do tang ne yang sok de to syurung go ne gen do thung dong do ne gen do ta de chi gi do as ta de re ina yang ta cho danda temin tu je kabla sok wang bo sen de la sha de kab de la nga so ke ne ma shi bi ne bi cha de la ta temin tu je yin ta de sung le ta le ge wang ge de ne le de thap ge wang ge ta ji che yang ge che ring do so ye do ro ne ta den zo 다 된조 진나양 다 양체링부 차송나 다 내비 차들량 속 옹보스네 납쇼기로와 네 강인나면은 속 옹보스나 다 윤팅봉이나라도 윤 링구이나라도 탑시에 땅량 체링부 소나라도 강인나면은 딱고 지 체대암 지 맞아 마시와 내비 차주라다 디 속이 옹보스.
And then there was a question with regard to the non-concurrent formation of the life force that we spoke about. So we said that which, one second. So the life faculty, we said, is the lifespan, is that which is present until we die. So it's the aspect of the continuation of life throughout the life. And so we said that that is based on the individual karma of beings, the individual karmic imprints or the karmic actions that lead them to how long one abides within this world. And the question was with regard to karma and methods that can be applied, and how much that can then influence a longer life, for example, and how much is really the karma itself for a lifespan. But here we have to understand that the non-concurrent formation of the life faculty really refers to that which is present throughout our life, whether it gets terminated by the exhaustion of the particular karma, or whether the life is extended beyond what it would have initially been by applying certain methods. The non-concurrent formation of the life force refers to this aspect of abiding, this aspect of staying alive, and it only it's this aspect of remaining throughout the time because of the power of karma. But even if the life is extended beyond its initial lifespan, still the non-concurrent formation of the life faculty would still be present at that time, because it's just this aspect of abiding, right? So whether through certain practices, through certain skillful means, the life can get extended or not is not really relevant in the discussion of the life faculty, which is the non-concurrent formation of the life faculty, which is the entire is that which is present as long as one is alive.
So tene ne nipa kam shebi kamdela ena kazoyosna kam chopje ye sungre kam chopje ne suki phungbo le kam chu shades de khasang yala tanda de 먼저 de suki phungbo sne phungbo ngai nan suki phungbo yoba te suki phungbo nang kam chu thamba shagi sungare 강시나 감 속에 풍부나 예배 감출이 강인수나 미기 감네 뢰기 감 이제 바르나 당스 다 풍부 갑라 아단당아저 왕보 라브라 담봉이라 미기 왕보 나이 왕보 제 왕보 뢰기 왕보 텐데스네 왕보 라빈바 다 다난 신친이 단다도로 감기 갑라 아니 미기 감 나이 제 뢰기 감스네 텐데스네 샤고게레 다 단다 숙진기 감주스네 속이 풍부낭네 출랩교 숙쟁기 감주스네 샤디갈라 아니 메기 감네 류지 감게 바도 나당스 데네 속이 감네 렉제 바도라스 다나조 속이 풍부 갑라 아니 속델라 에나 규숙 중화 첨보 시당 대숙 축직스네 샤임바 대숙 축진 낭라 ane wangbo nga dang dön nga sin lai ba wong de redwa wangbo nga de dang dön nga de so cha chi ro re cha de o denzo ming la suk jing ge kam chu sa ta dan da di kap la ane suk ge kam chai kam chi kam roi kam re che kam de chu os ande de sin suk jing ge kam chu sa ta dang ka sang ma de suk ge phung bo nang la ta na 제수 죽진 남라 엉봉하다 병나라 비니보테 따단다 두루 아니 캄 질위 갑라 캄 장가 질위 갑라 아니 속쟁게 캄 주스 뭐데 왕 마치 믹네 르기갑도 캄nga 아니 속네 렉제바도 캄nga데 주스 된절라 속쟁 캄 주스 되네스 다캄 좁게 나는 주 되네스 와레스.
And now if we come to the text, we have reached the second chapter, the second of the 10 topics of expertise, which is the topic of the elements or dhatus. And on page 36, the first paragraph reads, there are 10 elements taken from the aggregate of forms. What are they? They are the 5 elements of the sense faculties, from the eye element to the body element, and the 5 elements of the sense objects, from the element of visible form to the element of textures, thus totaling 10. So when we enumerate the dhatus, the elements, then there are 18 elements. And some of them are directly relating to what we have seen before in the aggregates. So the first 10 of the 18 aggregates, they are included within the aggregate of form. So we were looking at the 5 aggregates, and the first one of those was form. And 10 of these elements belong to the were enumerated as parts of the aggregate of form. So it's a different way of breaking things down. The first ones are the 5 what we saw as the 5 sense faculties that have form, that are part of the aggregate of form. And what we enumerated first within the aggregates as the eye faculty, the ear faculty, the nose faculty, the tongue faculty, and the body faculty is now in the elements referred to as the eye element, the ear element, the nose element, the tongue element, and the body element. So those plus the 10 object elements, so the make up the 10 elements that have form, that belong to the aggregative form, or were enumerated in the aggregative form. And here they're called the 10 aggregates which have form. And so when we talked about form before, we said that there are 4 causal forms and 11 resultant forms. And within the 11 resultant forms, we found the 5 faculties plus the 5 objects specific to these faculties. So these 10, the 5 objects and the 5 faculties, are enumerated here as the elements that possess form. So we had the 5 faculties, as I just enumerated them, being the eye element, the ear element, and so on. And then the respective objects also. So the form element, visible form element, the sound element, the smell or scent element, the taste element, and the tangible element. So those are then the 10 elements which are directly taken from the aggregate of form.
디 주디게 땡둘라 아니 단 넘버십이 감둔세 넘버십이 감둔 냄나 되는 좁든 차기라와 넘버십이 감둔데세 넘버십이 감둔데 가인슈나 미기 남시지 감네 얘기 남시지 감지 바르도 조스다 디디 맞아 남시지 풍부 시비 갑라 레빈바 가상 온디레 단다지 남시지 풍부 시비가 미기 넘버십바 나이 넘버십바 신데 랍네 도임 바티나 신신이 따투루 미기 넘버십바지 감 나이 넘버십바지 감지 넘버십바지 감 다나신 류기 넘버십바지 감 되네 얘기 넘버십바지 감 신데 랍네 아니 조고교래 송아래 디다우치네 얘기 넘버십이 감 바도 족당 앙디 땡도라 얘기 감 생지 다이디 얘기 옹보라 빈데레 온데스네 든 안데 남시 주기 땡돌라 얘기 감당스네 든 냄나 아네 든 냄나 단지 약간로 숙쟁기 감 주의 강라 데 넘버십이 감 든보데 냄스나 줍든 차와레스.
There are 7 elements from the aggregate of consciousness. The 6 from the I consciousness element to the mind consciousness element and the mind element, thus totaling 7. So on top of the 10 elements that we have seen that come from the aggregate of form, now we add to those the 7 elements that belong to the aggregate of consciousness. That totals then 17 elements. And so these elements that come from the aggregate of consciousness, they're first the 6 types of consciousness. So from the I consciousness, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind consciousness. And so they are then the consciousness elements, so the I consciousness element, the ear consciousness element, the nose consciousness element, the tongue consciousness element, the body consciousness element, and the mind consciousness element. So that makes the 6 types of consciousness which we discussed in the aggregate of consciousness. And on top of that then comes also the mind element, or that's the faculty for the mind consciousness. And so with including that last one, including also the mind element, the faculty for the mind consciousness, then we have 17 now.
얘기 감 셰바스 얘기 감 라겐데 가인데레스나 얘기 옹보 된데 단다 옹보 지비깔라 얘기 옹보 라베셔와 온디 레스마레 얘기 옹보 데에스 얘기 감 셰바데 단다 옹보가 옹보 지비갑데라 옹보 족도 지비갑라 얘기 옹보 센지지바 메기 옹보 나이 옹보 나이ом보 제om보 리dom보 얘기 옹보 센 온디 얘기 옹보 라빈데 레스마레 얘기 감 셰바 얘기 옹보 데에스 디 얘기 옹보 데 간데레라 텐데스나 지나 데데라 number 셰바 조보스 number 셰바 조보 미게 number 셰바 나이 number 셰바 나이 number 셰바 루기 number 얘기 number 셰바 데네 텐조 number 셰바 조보 각마 탁바 데라 얘기 셰바 각마 탁바 데 아니 얘기 셰바 제베기 왕보되기 명데라 얘기 왕보스네 나비레스는 다다나도 페나 속 미기 든라 속 아니 미기 왕보 아니 셰바케지 나마디 숨총네 믹셰제르와 미기 셰바제레 믹셰데 가마 탁바스 믹셰데 가마 탁도 계지 니바드로 기네 데 셰바데 얘기 옹보생데 레송하네 아니 이 옹보 딜라 때네데 이셰기비 옹보 스티디 첼라양 두바 얘기 셰바생데 양 얘기 셰바생제 얘기 셰바생제 양 계교래 온데 단다 얘기 옹보 라겐데 남셰 두 강마 탁바데 레스네 송하네 디 얘기 셰바데 계기 왕보도 지게요레스
de la kechik ma sumchigo rebe. Miki namshe dang wangbo ge kechik ma dang dene yigi namshe.
얘기 남시에 얘기 왕보다 냠도라고 요래.
냠도 yoreba.
냠도 요래.
That's it. The mind element is the mental faculty which is what immediately follows the cessation of any of the 6 collections of cognitions. It is the faculty which produces a mental cognition. So when we talk now about the mind element, what is this mind element? The mind of the faculty, the mind faculty. It is enumerated within the faculties. We said there are 6 types of faculties. There's the eye faculty, ear faculty, nose faculty, tongue faculty, body faculty, and the mind faculty. And so it is then that which is the faculty, that's the condition for the mind consciousness to arise. So there are 6 faculties that facilitate the arising of the 6 consciousnesses, from the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, to the mind consciousness. And so the mind faculty, this mind element, is that which directly follows as soon as any of the prior consciousnesses cease. So for example, the sense consciousnesses. If a cognition ceases, then that in the next moment, the next moment after that is the mind faculty, which arises at the same time then as the mind consciousness. So we said that for cognition to arise, we need to have the object, the faculty, and the prior moment of cognition. So those 3 coming together then can give rise to a new cognition, for example, the eye consciousness. So if there's visible form, the eye faculty, and cognition, then that gives, and they meet, then that gives rise to eye consciousness and eye cognition. And so as soon as that moment of cognition, this moment of eye consciousness ceases, this momentary eye consciousness ceases, then that is then followed by the what facilitates the mind consciousness to arise. So that which directly follows the ceasing of the eye consciousness in our example here is then the mind faculty or the mind element, and that then allows the mind consciousness to arise. And I clarified with Lamala just now, we have to count it as 2 moments only. So the faculty would arise simultaneously with the mind consciousness. Lasso.
되네. 디 쪽든 되게 강델라 되네 최기 감 쉐바데 님송나 아네 되네 감 쪽에서 논데레스 최기 감 쉐죠.
And if we now then add yet another element to the 17 that we just enumerated, then we have 18. And this last one is the element of mental objects, or the Dhamma element.
네. 다 감쪽제 되어는데스네 다지와레 왕보토 열토 셰바토라 왕도 열도 셰바토 대다라 감니 쪽게 도스.
So this enumerates the 18 elements, the 6 the 6 faculties, the 6 objects, and the 6 kinds of consciousness together makes up the 18 elements.
Tene da chokam de la yang yeba do jin yang yewa do du ro de mala tene chokam xie chao de kan de yin sung na chorwa dang da chorwa dang du xie ge phung bo sum dang so da de chorwa dan da phung bo ngai na nga zo chorwi phung bo ji chin yin ba on de chorwi phung bo dang da chokam nang la su yore sen na chorwi phung bo de 아니 두셰기 풍보스다 야강라 두셰기 풍보지 풍보가 있는 두셰기 풍보와 대지 아니 이 양결 때 두제기 풍보스 나대대 풍보순당 네 안에 다 풍보순지 안 데이팅들라 도도냐 넘버 리치 멤버 속스 단당아조 넘버 리치 멤버 속대 야강랑아조 베나 속이 풍보라 예나 규수 중화 첨보 시당 제수 축직스네 지디갑라 데네 제수 축직 năng 베나 몸바 쯧다다 베나 왕봉아다 되는가 주 안에 디강라 안에 넘버 리치 마임베 속스네 nem나 안에 축직스네 데스네 디 넘버 리치 마임베 속이 야강라 텐지 레브레 양 왕봉아다 되는가 yang ngomba kundu tan chegi keche pai zuk nemne yang jesu chukchi yin sen la dikap de la yang didu kapla yen dene je chegi keche pai zuk de namba nga nana chiti kala chik de namba reji maim be so yang dalang ba le jung zuk ta ne se la kapla o tende sen namba reji maim be zuk se ta de o ten zo chi re ta di tan ta tanda de chokam nang la yang 야강라 풍보 갑라 지위기 숨 풍보 숨제 넘버리제 마임베 소제 안디 땡돌라 도다양 두마제스 다 두마제 텐조 야강라 시에 말에 다 두마제에스 시에 말에서나 냠죽 텐조 도 시에라 두마제 도스 다 두마제 오텐 텐데 요송 안에 다 두마 숨제 시지 두마제들라 양결 답변나 두마체라 소소 딱배 고바당 지 소소 땅맹기 고바당 니 남카당 숨 안젤레 몸바 쯧나라 셰도스 데타르나스나 텐데지당 디타르나 몸바 쯧타르나 초캄델레 에와 가조여서는 몸바 쯧타르나 듄 여선 송네 듄 초르와 두제기 풍보 숨 나바리지 마임베 속당 시 안디간라 두마체 데라 숨도와 시강라 소소타고 땅나 소소타밍 땅 주 아니 남카다 진행 초감 듄도스 다데 문바저 따르나 초감 데라 듄 담바치에 여스 송 근데 소소타고 땅 타밍 남카 텐조데 제시 오네 캬기도 다디 초로와 땅 두셰 땅 풍보다 넘버리지면 텐조기 제시데다 다 야강라 풍보 시위 갑라데네 드로사린도 이갈 되는 말라 숨기미도 다디 소소타고 다다면 제시데 디는 말라 갈레 레비도
So the element of mental objects are the 3 aggregates of sensation, perceptions, and formations in addition to imperceptible forms and all unconditioned things. So we have enumerated 18 of all 18 of the 18 elements now, and the last one, the element of mental objects, is enumerated now further. What this refers to goes a little bit into detail here. So the element of mental objects first includes the aggregates of sensation, perceptions, and formations that we have seen previously. So sensations or feelings and perceptions and formations, they fall into the category of being mental objects. On top of that then comes also the imperceptible forms. You might remember that when we were discussing the form element, no, the form aggregate, at that time we said there are 4 causal forms, which are the great elements, and then there are the 11 resultant forms, which are 5 objects, 5 then faculties, and then the 11th type we discussed in light of the way it's explained in the kosha as imperceptible form. In the Abhidhamma Samuccaya, it's explained in terms of the 5 types of mental objects. So following here the explanation of the kosha, the imperceptible form is a mental object, in addition to sensation, perception, and formation. These make then up the conditioned mental objects, so mental objects that are conditioned things or conditioned phenomena. And in addition to that, there are also unconditioned phenomena that are the objects of the mind, that are mental objects. And these are the cessation due to discrimination or discriminative cessation, non-discriminative cessation, the cessation not due to discrimination, and space. So these 3 types of non-conditioned phenomena are also part of the elements of mental objects. So these are the 3 types of unconditioned phenomena. The 2 types of cessation, both discriminative and non-discriminative cessation, as well as space. And so that's the count that we find in the Abhidhamma Kosha, enumerating sensation, perception, formation, imperceptible form, cessation due to discrimination, cessation not due to discrimination, and space as the 7 types of mental objects. Most of them we have seen previously, so they will not be discussed again. They're taken from discussion of the aggregates, and we can refer directly to that. But the 2 types of discrimination, so the conditioned ones, those we covered already. The unconditioned ones, the 2 types of cessation as well as space, will be discussed below. So we will see that.
네, 단다 소소 따고 땅, 따민 땅, 남가스네, 아니 두마체델라 숨다 곰바즈 녹솔라 샤레. 안디 땡돌라 디 숨디기 땡돌라 양 심잠바 소케이스 다 심잠바당 그냥 대신이 다 두마칠라 되게 우마바 콩남지 아니 대신이 세인데 냄네스 다 대신이 있으나 동니암 조절 되게 되더라 동니단 조절 디는데 아니 두마치들 양시 두마치 시 되는 샤기레스 두마치 시르시에스 대양 몸바 군두소스 당오라 두마치 디신이 지기 나양 양 땡기고니 개버게 개와이 두마치 디신이 미기위 디신이 롱마 땡기 디신이 스냥 디신이 숨 디신이 숨 동시 개 미기 롱마 땡기 숨라 땡네 대속의 동반이 숨도 개위 디신이 미기위 디신이 롱마 땡 디신이 숨당 냥 두시 메바당 아니 고비 념주기 고비 념주스 고비 념주기 뒤에 심케비 내가 니데스 심메비차 두시 메바 심메비차 디당 아니 고비 념주 념주기 뒤라 심메비 심케비차 니데 아니 니데 공기 공기 두마체 숨 아니 dombe 두마체 양 뭔가 군두 따나 두마체 개도 양 되게레스 숨
So concerning unconditioned things, the three explained in the Abhidhamma Kosha are cessation due to discrimination, cessation due to cessation due to discrimination, cessation not due to discrimination in space. In this way, there are 7 elements of mental objects. Alternately, the adherents of the mind-only school hold that there are 4 unconditioned things by adding suchness. So on top of the 3 unconditioned things that the Abhidhamma Kosha presents as mental objects, then the Abhidhamma Samuccaya, or the mind-only school in general, as well as the Madhyamikans that speak about these unconditioned things, then refer to some more, they add suchness to the list, suchness which is emptiness free of all elaborations. And by dividing that further, depending on the individuum and so on, then the Abhidhamma Samuccaya actually enumerates further 5 things. So it enumerates 3 kinds of suchness and the 2 types of serenity to belong into the category of the mental objects here. So according to the Abhidhamma Samuccaya, it is held that there are the 3 unconditioned things of the suchness of virtue, the suchness of non-virtue, and the suchness of the neutral. And B, the 2 unconditioned things of the occasion of blocked cognition at the time of the serenity of non-perception and the serenity of cessation. Adding these together with the above 3, it is held that there are 8 unconditioned things. So looking at the basis for the recognition or the realization of emptiness, that which is empty of a true nature, then we can classify 3 different types of suchness. The suchness of virtue, the suchness of non-virtue, and the suchness of neutrality. And so that's a classification based on the basis for the suchness, not the suchness itself. And then there's also the 2 types of serenities, the serenity of non-perception and the serenity of cessation, states in which all the consciousnesses are all the consciousnesses are blocked and or have ceased temporarily, and so those are also enumerated here, making it a total then of 8 unconditioned things, with the ones that we saw already in the explanation of the Kosha.
Tanda duru ane dumaje nangla dushe mepa lagin chitang tanda ngomba kundu tana dushe mepa tang ane kobe nyomjuk sen de dumaje kabla tenji yang lebre yang ya kangla tanji duje ji phungbu shewi kabla demin duje nyeshi shewi ka duje gi chue kabla keje shewi kala yangger dushe mepa tang kobe nyomjuk tende shere tene kap denyi de duje yimba daw kap dumaje yimba daw 안데스네 통 시기레스 다들 에와 양보 치시 고래 데 도마제스나 가두 간데 갑라 차데라니 두제스나 간데 임바데 네갑디 답변나 두셰 메바당 고빈님주데 답변나 두제기 디민 두제나라 찌비 갑라 데네 셈셈중 고빈 뉴바 데라 고고소스네 데네순 셈셈중 셈셈중 뉴바 고바데라 아네 고바데라 고고레스 타디 고바데다 데라 고고레스 타단다 두루 아네 두시 메비차 아네 뇨모바 탐제 뇨몽바 탐제 고비차 아네 셈 메비차 어딘데지라 고와 낭네 다 디니데 양 제만에 갑갑 가래 켄중 낭라 두셰 메바데 당 고비 뇽중니데 갑갑 두제 임바도 데민 두제 니시 낭라 찌기도스 야가나 두제 풍고 낭라 갑갑네 디 단다 두마제 스네 샤베 갑라양 두마제라 찌기도 다 된조 간데라 이낭 스네 된데야 lep시기레스 지와 된데 다 된조 야강데 아니 셈심준교 곡베 뉴바데라 아니 딱샤조로와 곡바데라 두시면 셈심준 뉴바 곡바데라 두시면 바스 셈심준 뇽몽바 곡바 곡베기 뉴바데라스 딱샤다 단다 두루양 아니 제 셈중 탐제 메비 차데라 뇽몽 달위 차데라 된데스 딱샤네.
So here we have now seen in the list of the Abhidhamma Samuccaya, we have now seen also the serenity of non-perception and the serenity of cessation enumerated. And we have already spoken a little bit about the serenity of non-perception and the serenity of cessation in a different context, right? We have seen those in the context of non-concurrent formations, which are conditioned phenomena. So we have seen them in the list of conditioned phenomena that are neither mind nor matter. And here now they're actually enlisted in unconditioned phenomena. So what's happening here? It's important that we really distinguish these two different contexts and do not get confused about when these two types of serenity are listed as conditioned and unconditioned phenomena. Otherwise, we probably get quite confused of what they belong to now. So when we talked about the serenity of non-perception and the serenity of cessation in the context of non-concurrent formations as conditioned phenomena, what did we actually refer to there? We said that these two types of the non-concurrent formation there is the ability for making the mind and mental states all cease or suppress them or stop them temporarily. So it's this ability to stop the mind and mental states that was this aspect of the serenities here. That was a non-conditioned phenomenon. It's this aspect of ability to stop the mind and mental states. While when we talk about the non-concurrent formation, then when we talk about an unconditioned phenomena of the serenity of non-perception, the serenity of cessation, then this refers to the aspect of cessation of those having the mind and mental states are not being present, having been suppressed. So one is the conditioned phenomena refers to the ability to stop mind and mental states, which prevents them from arising as long as one is in that serenity, while the unconditioned phenomena of the serenity of non-perception or cessation refers to the absence itself, the aspect of the mind and mental states having ceased at that state. So it's the aspect of that they don't exist, that they're not present at that time.
네, 다 도마제 숨디게 콜라양 또 제셔도 남기도 되니 말라. 델라 소소르 따고니 소소 따고 쓰는 간대인스 슈나 소소르 따고 셰랍지스 최된조 탐제라 소소소소 따고 셰랍 속에 있어. 람게 doble세
pena ani gangsa ge daksing de gang de redo soso ge sugi phungbo del redo tang chorwa phungbo del redo tang daksing de lakwa de redo tang kangba de redo tang go redo tang daksing de kawa do sen dende supu den to tang ngobo tham jela rangshing ruba sen kawa do sen so ewa chene so tang ne dege sherab ge sherab sos lam ge ta den zo lam la changba chibe kapla den de tang je tang ro o den de chene lam ge topless den de tong de kap de la tene daksing je dak tu zimba sing daksing je mewa je na ha ko ne tene pangja tene dak tu zimba dila tene mari docha khongdo ngajal la so ba da ro ane khongdo namche la so ba zawi nyomong tang nyewi nyomong sene ya kang la ke je mong shi de pangja den zu zanyen de nyenyen den zo nyomong ba so se ro ten do dalwi tu ma chen je chawo sen ten do dalwa se ta den de sene so ta pe go ne lam gom bi go ne ten nyomong ba so ten ne dalwi cha ji yong gi ro on di ming de la so ta pe go pa tu ma chen ge chawo sen the taming ge gopa sing de yang de do na shin so takpa de chin kek ba do men yang so tak che tang ne kek sha jo din de ma yang chi dang ge gyu je ma chang wi top ji chi dang ge gyu je ma ta pe na jo dan da dun ji ane sa cha di la pe na dun ji sa cha di la cha la kha ya rong wa shi dan da me bi wang du tang na pe na de gyu je ma chang ne me wa do ji wa pe top ge gang na gang me ba de sa pena tunji shidela chala kaya rungaji tanda pena tunji shidela tanda mendong yewe ki gyuje machangwa chamla kangna kang meba tes todonya pe shimbe shana tai gola ra meba ta wos pena tashi ki gola ra cho mena ane kola kare diming na soso taming goba lagires gyujin ki machangwi chamgerwa machangwi topke ane kangle kang meba daudela ane soso taming pena tai gola ra cho mewa ta tapena tunji chokje kanla mendo mewe neka katau te do kangdang kang meba den thamje la den so taming ko pasne ko re sungane
Jetzt zingang na la tena kera kitun la meto yosare. Tata kyuken mindo. So now we're elaborating a little bit further on these unconditioned phenomena. Here then next come the two types of cessation, the analytical cessation and the non-analytical cessation, or cessation due to discrimination and cessation not due to discrimination. And the way that we can understand this is as follows. Cessation due to discrimination is the unconditioned quality of being permanently free from what should be relinquished, such as the disturbing emotions by means of the power of the past, such as discriminating knowledge. So, analytical cessation or cessation not due to discrimination is referring to the fact that one develops knowledge, wisdom with regard to all phenomena by cultivating the path. Analytically, one investigates the nature of all phenomena and comes to know the absence of a self of person, for example, by analyzing the five aggregates, analyzing whether the self exists within the five aggregates, whether the five aggregates are the self, whether it's a sensation itself that is the self, and so on, or whether it's the hand, the foot, the head. Where does the self lie? And so through analysis of all the constituents of all the different phenomena, one can come to the wisdom that there is no self of person. And so then the grasping to a self of person will subside. So when we come to know, when we analyze each individual phenomena, all entities, then wisdom arises, that is the opposite to ignorance. And so that is part of the path, the analysis on the path of the path itself that leads to the realization of selflessness, that leads to letting go of the false grasping to self, that which needs to be abandoned, the objects of abandonment, and with that then the afflictive emotions, the root afflictions that we saw, as well as the subsidiary afflictive emotions, that is all eliminated as like by practicing the path, by this analytical analysis and the development of wisdom through that analysis on the path, and therefore this falls into the category of the cessation due to discrimination. So it's really the aspect of becoming free from the objects of abandonment by practicing or by cultivating the path. And the second type of cessation is then the cessation not due to discrimination. That just refers to the mere absence of something, because no causes and conditions for that particular thing would be present, have come together. So if there are no causes and conditions for something to appear, then nothing appears, and that's just the mere absence of that thing, right? So in front of me, there are no flowers. There's empty space without any flowers. It's because the causes and conditions for flowers to be there are not present. There's no flower because there are no causes and conditions for flowers to appear. So the absence of the flowers is non-analytical cessation, the mere absence of the causes and conditions, and so therefore it's the mere absence of a phenomena. There are also no causes and conditions for horns to grow on a horse's head. So the absence of horns on the horse head is an example for non-analytical cessation. So it really means just the absence of a phenomena because the causes and conditions are not present. So whether it's the horns on the horse head or whether it's the flowers in front of me, they're not present because there are no causes and conditions present for the flowers to be there, right? And so I said, I was just joking about it, saying, yeah, it's when we're in the classroom, then there might be causes and conditions for flowers to be in front of Lamala, but sadly, right now there are no causes and conditions for flowers.
초 강나 봄바 메바따오소 메비 제라 탐제 데르두오 사다 소소 담민 고바스인다 규게 마상네 다초 강당 강 메바다오 벤나 봄바 메바따오 뭐라 균지 시리 강나 봄바 메바따오 아네 때나 센치네 규게 마상네 아네 마초네 데네 디톱기 초 강나 강 메바 텐조 탐제 제라 탐제 아니 담민 고바디나나 두오스 Tene dumaje nangli yang sumba namkha singde kandere namna sugrung meching se susuruma pena mazo tanda zengkang nangdela chokche pena karpang daw pena chala dene mamu thongde denzo susurung warwa ta namkha sena dido susuruma meching se 탐제 고체 발라 미디 바오 탐제 고체 바스네가라 제 톡레 메와도 지 계자지 톡레 메와 안에 제 디비에 된데 자완이 메와 파 고체 지 고양보 도지 와 도지 된데게 된다진데 미디비랑 신데 된데 지민나 된 남칸다 비여스 베나 namkha yubi topki ngazo ya lang na yang lang thukire ani ma thela nyal na yang lakba kyang na ene kharichina chitu namkha yona pena namkha mekha ki sacha ngazo ta pena kam tushi jig nangla ju te na tadi kam tushi de la ani thokre khak te ra kam tushi de den lakba kyang ye daw dinamina ta go cheba se de kam tushi daw na la mewa che ngazo de goyang dongba na yewa de go cheba te miti bas ta 어디로 오래도 미지바다 디도 동파디 가와려나 다디 남카 첨보 남카 충충라 남카 첨보다 이제 둥기 남카 첨보로라 남카 충충 빼나가죠 카 능라도 나능라도 남카도여라 중 남카 충충 보게 남카도 어디라 소바디네 강다레 미지비 차델라 안 남카 쓴다 버레스 덴데다 신양양 개와 속상 최남 대신이니 최진 다데 대신이디 고라양 계자시기도 되말라 단다 개미가 롱마된 숨지 대신이 쓰는 저 계자시셔서요 개와의 대신이 미개와의 대신이 롱마된 계신 다디도 야 강라제 레랍스와 대신이에서 개와 코롱기 내룩 토탈 강 동니 강이 받텔라 개위 대신이 다나시 미개와다 롱마된 까와 본바 라소바 탐제기 미개와당 아니 룽마된 까와 본발라소바 탐제기 동료 조절된 명라 아니 다 대신이스 게 미개 룽마된 속이 대신이스 되니 두셰미비 뇽주 생인데 두셰미비 뇽주 생 대양 대셔도 잡는도와 미요와니 다텔라 미요와 센탄제 심 두셰 세마르 짐박 딜레 미요와 딘데 임베 딘데 강라 셈 각비 차데 민라 셈 요굴 메비 차데람 두셰 메비 뇽버 주바스 두셰 당 초르와 당 덴조 곡바니 곡비 뇽 주고스 다디 곡비 단다체 디우 곡비 뇽 주글세네 디우데라 뇽마 곡비 차데라 곡비 두스 소네 곡비 뇽 주고스
So this non-analytical cessation really refers to the absence of causes and conditions coming together. So when there are no causes and conditions, then the non-arising of phenomena, that refers to this non-analytical cessation. And that can hold true for any kind of phenomena. So there's no cup in front of me right now. There's no vase in front of me right now, like all of these different things, like when there are no causes and conditions for it to appear, for it to be there, then this refers to the non-analytical cessation. And then, I think I didn't read this paragraph yet. So cessation not due to discrimination is not blocking by means of discrimination. Because of insufficient causes and conditions, it is a non-existence of something at a certain place, as, for example, horns on the head of a horse. As in the instance of the absence of a vase at a certain location, all kinds of non-existence are included within this. So all kinds of non-existences belong into that category. Then space is the next unconditioned phenomena. Space is not capable of being a physical form. It accommodates all activities and does not obstruct. So space refers to the absence of anything obstructive. It's the opposite of form. So it's that which is not suitable to be form, or it cannot be form. It cannot be touched, it cannot be pierced, so it's not suitable to be form. And so all the different things that we have in our room, like the table, a chair, the walls, and so on, no whiteboard here anymore. So all of those, they are something that can be touched, that are obstructive, that are obstructive if you touch them. They hinder the unobstructive movement of something else. And so space is not obstructive. It does not obstruct the movement of something else. And so it's, in that sense, space is said to be non-obstructive, doesn't obstruct. And it allows us for all sorts of movement. It allows any kind of movement. If there would be no space, like we couldn't get up. So only because there's empty space, without anything obstructive, we can get up, we can lie down, we can move our hand, we can stretch our arm. If we were boxed up in a tiny little box, we would there would be something obstructive, the box, right? And then we couldn't move our arm, we couldn't stretch out our arm and reach up somewhere. But because there's no obstruction, because there's no obstructive phenomena like the box, that's why we can freely move. So it's space that allows all sorts of movement. And we usually talk about two types of space, a big space and the small spaces. The big space is just the space in front of us, the absence of obstructive things all around us. And the small spaces are then the absence of obstructive things in certain cavities. So there's the space within the nose, there's the space in the mouth, and so on. Those are the small types of spaces. But generally, it really just refers to the aspect of non-obstructiveness. There's nothing obstructive, and that we call space. And then next come the suchness of all phenomena, such as virtue and so forth, is Dhammadhatu, the realm of phenomena. So the three types of suchness we said were the suchness of virtue, the suchness of non-virtue, and the suchness of neutral phenomena. So any kind of phenomena that is virtuous, not any kind of phenomena that is non-virtuous, and any kind of phenomena that is neutral is, in its essence, is empty and free of all elaboration, is without a self. And so that's suchness, like based on how we categorize things into virtuous, non-virtuous, and neutral, we speak about the three types of suchness, but it refers to like the true suchness, emptiness, free of all elaboration, is true for all of them. So that's the empty nature, the Dhammadhatu, the sphere, the sorry, the sphere of all phenomena, the nature of phenomena. And then we come to the serenity of non-perception, and that's non-transference here, or not being swayed, not being moved. And that refers to the fact that in the serenity of non-perception, the mind is not moved or swayed by the grasping to characteristics. It's completely still in the state of non-perception without grasping to or perceiving characteristics of phenomena and being disturbed by that. And then the serenity of cessation is the cessation of both perceptions and sensations. So the serenity of cessation is then coming to an end, or like subsiding of perceptions and sensations. So that's again the aspect of the ceasing of sensations and perceptions.
대다라 아니 최기게 제바의 속 나당선 야강라 대숙 죽지 시비 갑라데 최기게 제바의 속 나스네 샤가요와 온디 속 나당 되게 땡돌라 나제 준 초로와장 조 누셰당 든 누제당 진네 게 디면 게 지로와 초르두 두제 풍부 숨 최기게 제바 속 나이 땡돌라 초로와 두제 두제기 풍부 숨네 게 디 게디기 땡돌라 테네 두마체 게센다 두마체 게데 단지 약간나시 지소아 두마체 게데 소소 따고 소소 따밍고가 남카치 안디 땡돌랑 대신이 아니 시치 안 대신이 디게 강데라니 계위 대신이 메기위 대신이 롱마땡기 대신이 ane diten dushi me pas oti kebote de kebo tuma che kes de nemne ngomba kundu gi lukso la chokam ewa churuk sing de res sumare de ya kangla ngomba jogi lukso la ta chokam de la ena dun ngomba kundu gi lukso la chokam de la ena churuk ti yore ane dinang la ta ya kangla phumbu kabla deshe kyapyo denzo la ta deshe kyap saware ane de mayimba soso tako ta taming da deshin ni dang 요 어딘서 골라 드셔야지 겹낭송 tattin데다 드링기도 조데다 이제 캄델에나 가져야래서 캄델에나 좁게 요래서 왕부주 율주 셰바주 캄 좁게스나 어디네스에레스 되네 캄 좁게 되나다 최지 캄승데라 에와도 최지 캄델라다 뭔가 저기 룩소라 안에 든도 에와 조감 에와 든 되네 뭔가 군두기 룩소라 조감델라 에와 주룩도 어딘데스 골라 친송 된도로 참샤기 돼.
Listen. The 5 types of forms that are mental objects, the 3 aggregates of sensations, perceptions, and formations, and the 8 unconditioned things, totaling 16, are called elements of mental objects. So this then concludes the counting of the mental objects, the elaboration on the mental objects according to the Abhidhamma Samuccaya, where the 5 types of forms that are mental objects that we saw already previously when we discussed form, as well as the aggregates of sensations, perception, and formation, and the 8 unconditioned things, which are the 3 types of suchness: the suchness of virtue, the suchness of non-virtue, the suchness of neutral objects, then the serenity of non-perception, the serenity of cessation, the analytical cessation, and the non-analytical cessation and space. That makes then the 16 types of mental objects, the elements of mental objects, according to the Abhidhamma Samuccaya. So what we have seen then today is that the elements are enumerated as 18. They're the 6 sense objects, they're the 6 objects, the 6 faculties, and the 6 consciousnesses. And we then also saw that the mental object, the element of mental objects, can be further divided, and it's divided differently according to the Abhidhamma Kosha and the Abhidhamma Samuccaya. And according to the Abhidhamma Kosha, there are 7 types of elements of mental objects, and according to the Abhidhamma Samuccaya, there are 16 elements of mental objects. So there's the difference in these 2. That's what we saw today.
Jambal Bawe Jendara Kemba Dang Kundo Sangbo Deyang Deshen Tenda kunje jesu dalo jinge wandida tamje rabdu ngondu summe shekbe gyalwa tamje ki wa gangla chondu ngapa de dashin kebe zawan di kunjang Sangpo chuchir ramdo ngo warangi sunam de tamche sepa nye topne nye be chanam pamche Genga nache bala chuba yi sibe chole nruwa nruwa sho kewa di kewo kun sunam yeshe chozo shin sunam yeshe le chungwa tamba kunye toba ra sho lo chu so nruwa ra chinge labdo solo so cho lamdo nruwa ra chinge labdo so lam chulwa selwa ra chinge labdo so chulwa yeshe so charwa ra chinge labdo so naso chela jariyo
Jelajeo. Tutsina.
Thank you.
Inkala, what is question today?
Oh, yes, what's the question? Um, how many elements are there?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dorota, were you here when I said in the answered your question in the beginning?
No,
Okay.
but just
I'll send you a message later because
I,
I turned on the recording only after I said it.
oh no.
But I have to talk with Mark about something, so I have to go now.
I'm so sorry. Bye. So sorry.
No, it's okay. I couldn't see you, but I said it anyways for everyone. But I'll send you a message later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So sorry. Second time I was here.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye.